What's up, guys? I'm in my parents' backyard and I just paid for this entire trip with credit card miles. I'm going to show you exactly how to do the same, and I'm also going to show you exactly how to book aspirational travel if you want to go to Europe for free in business class. So we have a few specific use cases here. The first is booking domestic travel across transfer partners, booking domestic travel with the Capital One portal, and booking aspirational travel New York to Frankfurt in business class for 60,000 miles. Taking a look at our first use case, we're going to book a domestic flight from JFK to Seattle using transfer partners. You could do this by going to awardhacker.com, typing in the origin and destination, and for this I'll put JFK in Seattle, and then you can go ahead, just leave it as economy, and we're going to change the round trip to one way since it's a little bit easier to calculate for one way instead of round trip when you're making award flight redemptions. Okay, so now that we have everything figured out, we're going to click search and see what shows up. Reviewing the results, we could clearly see there's lots of different loyalty programs, which is what each of these icons is on the left, for 12.5, 10,000, and even more than that. So what we're gonna do is look on the right. You can see all of the different point currencies that you can transfer to these loyalty programs. We're gonna look for C1, which stands for Capital One. Some of these loyalty programs have published award charts that you can look at to compare what the base price should be if you're flying from JFK to Seattle. Sometimes they do it in miles, sometimes they do it in zones. So it's best to look at each loyalty program's award chart to figure that out. Also note that some award charts are published while some are not. Let's take a look at this Cathay Pacific award for 10,000 miles since it's the lowest, and why wouldn't we start there? After we click the drop down arrow, you can see there are steps exactly laid out on how to book this flight. And so what we can do is go to their website, or we can book over the phone and call. I'm gonna go to their website and sign into my Cathay Pacific loyalty program account. And if you don't have one of those, you can just create one for free. It is no problem. I personally have lots of different accounts open with different loyalty programs. So I use a password manager, and I'm not sponsoring this part because I actually like it, called Bitwarden. Okay, so once you get into the Cathay Pacific portal, we can go ahead and type in JFK and Seattle there, find that exact same flight. And for this, we're gonna actually have to put a date in. So put in the date that you'd like to fly. And as you guys know, it's best to book these really far in advance so there's still availability. And I would recommend looking at that award chart that I talked about earlier. So let's go to the Cathay Pacific award chart here, and we should see that this award should be 10,000 miles for the JFK to Seattle one-way in economy. Okay, so we're gonna click search on this portal here and see what shows up. And would you take a look, there is a 10,000 mile redemption right there from JFK to Seattle. But there is a little bit of a problem. We could clearly see there's one stop, and if you go up to the next award, it's 15,000 miles for no stop. Let's go back to the Award Hacker website and choose another loyalty program. This time, we're gonna try Air Canada since I've had good luck with Aeroplan, and many others like to use Air Canada's Aeroplan since it offers a lot of different rewards availability, and it usually has the best redemption options. There's a lot of different ones here, and they might also have multi-stop or just some sort of other weird redemption that might not be worth it, so we're just gonna choose Air Canada. Following the same steps, we're gonna click the drop down, go to their online portal and search for that exact same flight. And here we can see it's 12.5 thousand points, which is pretty good. So there it is, a United flight for 12,500 points plus $47 Canadian dollars. We need to figure out what the cent per point value of this to determine if it's a worth it flight. To calculate the cent per point, we need to take the cash price of this flight by going back to Google Flights and finding that exact flight for the cash price. Here, we could clearly see it's $149 since you're gonna have to have an extra bag, and United Basic Economy is not what we're booking. So we're gonna take the $149 and subtract 47 Canadian dollars, which is equal to 35 US dollars. Divide that by 12,500 points, and we get a 0.9 cent per point redemption. This is not good. Plus, if you look right next to the flight that we found the cash price on, you can clearly see there's an Alaska flight for $104, which does include a bag, and you won't have to pay extra for that. So if we calculated the cent per point value for that flight, it would be as low as 0.5 cent per point. It wouldn't make sense to spend 12,500 points for a $104 flight, plus you have to pay $47 Canadian dollars. I've just given you the framework that you need to search for your flights when you're gonna go ahead and look, which is excellent because we're gonna do it again, and I'm gonna show you a different option with a positive cent per point value. You may need to change the location that you're gonna fly to, but more than likely, domestic US flights are a little bit difficult to get a high cent per point value on, unless you're gonna be flying in first class. If we take a look at that same exact flight, but book first class instead, it'll be $549 minus that same $49 Canadian dollar fee. Divide that by 30,500 points to book the first class flight, and we have a 1.67 cent per point value. That is pretty good. Also, one important thing to note here is that as you get closer closer to that award flight date when it's flying, you're gonna find less availability and a higher cash value, which if you were to find availability and the cash value is high, that is where you could get potentially a good sweet spot in a redemption that's a high cent per point value. Okay, so I've seemed to made a fatal mistake here, and as you can clearly see, the Latitude reward is 30,500. That does not mean first class. This is their own overpriced like fee where you're able to change it. Guys, redeeming miles for airline flights is honestly very stressful and very difficult. Nobody tells you this. It's hard. We try to make it as easy as possible in these videos, but it's very difficult, and I made a mistake. So the rest of the video is accurate, but this one's not. Ignore the cent per point value and redeem for a hotel. It'll be a lot easier. Hotels are way easier to redeem for. So with that, keep going. Bye. We're gonna move on to our second use case, which is booking domestic travel within the Capital One portal. So to get that 1 cent per point value, we first need to start off by looking on Google Flights, as that's my preferred way to find the flight originally. Find the cheapest cash value flight as if you were to be paying cash. Then go to the Capital One travel portal, and you can just search again to find that exact flight that you were looking for. And if you really don't want to use Google Flights, you can go straight into the portal and just go from there. All you have to do is select the flight and then just click book. We're gonna go ahead and scroll down here and you'll see add your Capital One miles, which is excellent. There's no shame in getting a 1 cent per point value. This is the baseline for a good redemption. No shame in using the portal. So we've applied our Capital One miles to this flight, and now you can see it is $0 because the miles are gonna be paying for all of it. And I like to think of this as a great way to book flights that are really too soon because there's no availability, or just a domestic flight where you can't get a positive 1 cent per point redemption. Overall, sometimes I like to book with the portal if I have no other option. Okay, moving on to our third use case, we're gonna book a flight from New York City to Frankfurt in business class for 60,000 Capital One miles. All right, so we're gonna go right back to awardhacker.com, and for the origin, I'll put JFK, and the destination, I'll put Frankfurt. Then all we have to do is change the flight type from economy to business class, and of course, change it from round trip to one way. I chose Frankfurt here because there's many options to fly from Frankfurt if you can't find any direct flights where you want to go. I know there's a few locations you can just fly directly from JFK, but when I went to Italy, I had to fly a connecting flight to get to Florence since there were no direct flights on my route. Okay, let's click search and see what these options are. Okay, so there's a lot of options here, and you can clearly see there's lots of different point values here. But also, if you look on the right, not all of them are transferable from Capital One miles, so we need to note that and pick one that actually is. I'm gonna go ahead and choose Air Canada's Aeroplan since it's such a great way to book flights, and I really like using them. Okay, so I'm just gonna pick a random date far enough out where we're gonna be able to get that award availability, and it looks like we're going to be booking a United flight through Aeroplan, but it's going to be a little difficult here since United doesn't publish their award chart as of 2019, and we're just going to have to make our best guesses, as 60,000 seems to be the bottom for this type of redemption. Okay, there it is, guys, a 60,000 point plus 75 Canadian dollars business class award flight from New York City to Frankfurt Airport. I really just picked a random date to fly, so let's go ahead and see what the cash value of this flight can be, so then we can calculate the cent per point value. Okay, this would be $4,882 if we were to book with cash, which is really incredible. This is a pretty ridiculous redemption that you would theoretically be getting 8 cents per point in, but you gotta understand there's plenty of other flights around the same date and time that are for a third or even a quarter of the price. If we go back to Google Flights, we could clearly see that if we just change our date to 1 day earlier, there's a Condor Airlines flight for $1,350, which is a way better deal. Let's just say theoretically that the opportunity cost would be to take this one flight with points or pay $1,350 for the business class flight that's with Condor. So to calculate the cent per point value between both of these figures, we would have 2.16 cents per point, which is also an excellent redemption. Of course, this is an aspirational travel example, but I just wanted to show you that you could book Capital One miles to fly anywhere in the world. It's easy to get this amount of miles. You can just sign up for the Capital One Venture X and get 75,000 points after just spending $4,000 in 3 months. That's exactly what I did.
Hey, you should subscribe and use my VentureX link in the description. Okay, bye.
So let's say you find that exact flight and now you want to book it. We need to go to Capital One and transfer the points to Air Canada's Aeroplan so we can book the flight. So we're going to go to the CapitalOne.com website, which is not the Capital One portal, just your regular Capital One website. Sign in to your card, and then we're going to go ahead and click travel. and you'll see convert rewards there. Now you can find the selected travel partner and click transfer points. I'm gonna find Air Canada Aeroplan, and there it is. So let's transfer some points. So go to whatever transfer partner account you're using and grab the membership number from that account. You can usually find it by just clicking on your login or whatever it is up in the top right where you can find yourself, and just copy and paste that into the Capital One website. Then just paste the number of miles you're gonna be transferring. I wanna transfer exactly 60,000 to book this flight, so I'm gonna transfer that in. Then after the points hit, you just go back to that redemption and you can find it again and just go ahead and book that flight with those points and pay the $75. That's pretty much it, guys. All you have to do is transfer the points. It may take a business day or two, but usually it's instantly. You can also Google how long will it take to transfer X points to X rewards. So it's pretty simple to do that. I like to use Air Canada's Aeroplan because so many options are through that program, such as all of these Star Alliance members and including United. So with Capital One's transfer partners, you can't directly transfer to United, which was a big turnoff for me initially. But after learning that you can just use Air Canada's Aeroplan to book United flights, I actually realized this is a solid card. I value Capital One miles just as high as membership rewards points and ultimate rewards points. They're that good. I can record my next redemption when I book my next trip to Europe, so you guys can see exactly what it would be like. Then you can see another example on how I do it for real, and you can book that same flight if you want as well. I've found that not a lot of videos show you exactly how to transfer points like this, so if you guys have found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe down below and let me know if I missed anything or if there's anything else you'd like to see in the comments. And with that, I hope you guys all have an excellent day. Take it easy. Bye.